इससे आगे जाऊंगा आगे।
As we can see that our chief guest has arrived and he's been given the guard of honor. I request all of you here to kindly settle down.
1, 2.
A wonderful ceremonial welcome by students of APJ.
It prevents soil erosion and it has great nutrition.
Thank you, ma'am.
Floral Rangoli to welcome you all. Rangoli is a traditional art dated about 5,000, approximately 5,000 years. Rangolis are made using rice flour, pulses, grains, flower petals like this to get the desired dimensions and colors. So this Rangoli here, the flower design, which symbolizes fertility and prosperity in Indian. So let's pray the Almighty. Thank you very much. Looks very intriguing and a lovely Thank you.
The chief guest and the dignitaries are here with us. Namaste as we greet in India. A very good morning. On behalf of APJ Satya Group, Indian Obstetrics and Gynecology Journal, and Walter Bushnell Healthcare Foundation, a center of excellence of the APJ Satya University, I extend a very warm welcome to all our distinguished guests at the IOG Dr. Satya Paul Awards and Oration Lecture 2022. We are indeed honored to have amongst us a galaxy of esteemed doctors and other dignitaries from across the country and abroad, along with the members of APJ Satya family. I'd like to inform all of you that the entire proceedings of today's oration lecture and awards are being broadcast live on IOG and WB Facebook page and WB YouTube channel. In fact, many of our well-wishers have already joined us online, and a hearty welcome to all of them as well. It's a great privilege to extend a warm welcome to our chief guest, Dr. Kamran Nezhat, clinical professor of Ops and Gynae, University of California, San Francisco School of Medicine, adjunct clinical professor of surgery and Ops and Gynae at Stanford University Medical School, adjunct professor at the Medical University of Vienna, Austria, director of Kamran Nezhat Institute Center for Special Minimally Invasive and Robotic Surgery. I would also extend a special welcome to Ma'am Sushma Paul Barlia, co-promoter and president APJ Satya and Swaran Group, and Dr. J.B. Sharma, editor-in-chief IOG Journal, for gracing the event with their kind presence. Our welcome also for Mr. Nishan Barlia and Mr. Aditya Barlia, who are also here with us this morning. The IOG Dr. Satya Paul Awards and Oration Lecture have been instituted in the fond memory of Dr. Satya Paul, an eminent industrialist, educationist, philanthropist, and freedom fighter. The awards to be presented today would acknowledge excellence among members of our medical fraternity who have contributed papers to the reputed Indian Obstetrics and Gynecology Journal. I once again welcome all of you to IOG Dr. Satya Paul Awards and Oration Lecture 2022. Let us now light the auspicious ceremonial lamp to inaugurate today's special function. To do the honors, I request Dr. Kamran Nezhat, Madam Sushma Paul Barlia, Mr. Nishan Barlia, Mr. Aditya Barlia, and Dr. J.B. Sharma to light the ceremonial lamp.
वक्रतुण्ड महाकाय सूर्यकोटि समप्रभा निर्विघ्नं कुरु मे देव सर्वकार्येषु सर्वदा श्रीवक्रतुण्ड महाकाय सूर्यकोटि समप्रभा निर्विघ्नं कुरु मे देव सर्वकार्येषु सर्वदा श्रीवक्रतुण्ड महाकाय सूर्यकोटि समप्रभा निर्विघ्नं कुरु मे देव सर्वकार्येषु सर्वदा।
After the auspicious lamp lighting and chanting of mantras, may I request Dr. Kamran Nezhat, Madam Sushma Paul Barlia, and Dr. J.B. Sharma to kindly grace the dais. May I now request Madam Sushma Paul Barlia, daughter of late Dr. Satya Paul, to do the Deep Prajwalan, please. Deep Prajwalan. Nature is said to be the mother of all life on earth. Today, we'd like to pay obeisance to her benevolence by presenting the green certificates to our esteemed dignitaries present on the days. These green certificates symbolize the green saplings to be planted across the APJ Satya campus in honor of each of our dignitaries. Dr. Cameron Nazhat, Mrs. Sushma Paul Berlia, and one for Dr. J.B. Sharma. Ladies and gentlemen, Dr. Satya Paul, an eminent industrialist, educationist, freedom fighter, and philanthropist, was a leader par excellence and a legend of our times. He was one of the principal architects of our nation's emergence as a self-reliant industrial and educational superpower founded on the strength of Indian capability and enterprise. He is the prime inspiration of the APJ Satya and Swaran Group, the visionary architect of APJ education, and the founder chancellor of APJ Satya University. Dr. Satyapal was a man who overcame all odds to become one of the most respected men of this nation. We shall now showcase a short film on Dr. Satyapal, in whose fond memory these awards have been instituted.
कर्मण्येवाधिकारस्ते मा फलेषु कदाचन मा कर्मफलहेतुर्भुः मा ते सङ्गोऽस्त्वविकर्मणि.
Eminent industrialist, educationist, freedom fighter, and philanthropist, Dr. Satya Paul founded the APJ Satya and Swaran Group that has achieved an iconic status in independent India. The group is known as a trusted symbol of quality and excellence in the country's industrial landscape. A pioneering visionary with a deep commitment to society, Dr. Paul remained the inspiration and the guiding force behind the APJ Education Society, which he established in 1967. Today, the society provides quality education from pre-primary to doctoral levels to over 32,000 students through 29 educational institutions. Dr. Satya Paul was also the founder chancellor of the APJ Satya University, India's first liberal arts university. APJ Satya University aims to produce young Renaissance men and women who would be leaders of today and tomorrow. Born on the 4th of October in the year 1919, he surged ahead and faced all the challenges with firm determination. A brilliant scholar, Dr. Satya Paul was a university gold medalist in mathematics in undivided Punjab. During the course of the independence struggle in India, he became quite involved as a freedom fighter. As a result of his active participation, he was imprisoned by the British during the famous Quit India movement. Dr. Satya Paul lost his parents at a very young age, but he took up the responsibilities of taking care of his entire family and running the family business. Under his inspirational leadership, the APJ Satya and Swaran Group has become one of the most reputed corporate houses of the country. Apart from its large social commitment to education, it is actively participating in other business enterprises as well. Throughout his long and illustrious life, Dr. Satya Paul held responsible positions reflecting his versatility, his leadership, and his eminence. Numerous awards and honors were bestowed upon Dr. Satya Paul, though he never desired any monuments for himself. Dr. Satyapal's humility, simplicity, and affection impressed one and all. The happiest moments of his life were spent with children. He made us believe that it is not a disgrace if dreams remained unfulfilled, but it is a disgrace if we have no dreams at all. A true Karma Yogi, Dr. Satyapal retained his zeal for hard work even during his advanced age and remained keenly involved in the management of the APJ institutions. Active till the very end, he departed from the world peacefully on the 7th of June 2010 while preparing to leave for office. His daughter, Sushma Paul Barlia, together with her husband, Vijay Barlia, and their children, Nishant, Aditya, and Neha, carry forward the legacy of excellence, trust, and growth of the group. You are a spiritual being. You are energy, and energy cannot be created or destroyed. It just changes from one form to another. Therefore, the pure essence of you has always been and will always be with us.
That was truly inspiring. As we just saw, Dr. Satyapal's life is a glorious example of a true Karma Yogi, a source of great inspiration for today's generation. Carrying forward the legacy of Dr. Satyapal is his daughter and only child, Madam Sushma Paul Barlia. A multidimensional personality, Mrs. Barlia is a leading entrepreneur, industrialist, and educationist who has devoted her life to nation building with global footprints. She is a humanitarian, a worthy daughter, a caring spouse, a nurturing mother, an indulgent grandmother, and above all, an alchemist who performs all her roles with great ease to create a shining and inspiring story. A woman of many, but the whole is greater than the sum of its parts. Mrs. Barlia was the first woman to lead a multi-state apex chamber of commerce in India, serving as the president of the PhD-CCI in 2005 and 2006. She was the first woman in India to lead her own pharmaceutical company when not yet 30, and was the first woman entrepreneur of a major educational group in India. Mrs. Barlia is a former member of the Board of Governors, IIT Roorkee, and former chairperson, Board of Governors, NIT Jalandhar. Mrs. Sushma Paul Barlia is the chairman of ASSOCHAM, National Council on Business Facilitation and Global Competitiveness, and is a member of the National Management Committees of ASSOCHAM and also FICCI. In 1995, Mrs. Barlia represented India at the UN World Summit at Copenhagen and delivered the keynote address on the role of women at the workplace. A humanitarian to the core, Mrs. Sushma Paul Barlia has always championed such causes as working for the physically challenged, economically weaker sections of society and empowerment of women. Mrs. Sushma Paul Barlia has won numerous awards and accolades for her contributions towards academia and industry. These include felicitation by Skill Tree Knowledge Consortium and Mahatma Gandhi Samman at the House of Commons, London, Hall of Fame Award by Asian Leadership Awards, Dubai, Udyog Ratan Award, Lifetime Achievement Award for promoting education for social cause by ASSOCHAM, ET Inspiring Entrepreneur of India and Most Promising Business Leaders of Asia, Lifetime Achievement Award for promoting education for social cause, and many, many more. Rotary Club of Delhi Premier felicitated Mrs. Barlia as COVID warrior for her philanthropic endeavors and extraordinary contribution to help those in need during the COVID-19 pandemic. She was also conferred with Lifetime Achievement Award, promoting education for the social cause at Digital Education Summit at Universal Mentors Association. Recently, she was felicitated with the legendary Shiromani Award for Excellence in Education at the NRI World Summit 2022 in United Kingdom. Very recently, she delivered a special address in the House of Lords, UK, at the 2022 London Global Convention on Corporate Governance and Sustainability, which was much appreciated and applauded. Mrs. Sushma Paul Barlia has abiding interests beyond the realms of work. She is a voracious reader and loves to travel to new destinations. She is highly reflective, and her spiritual pursuits are intertwined in her busy schedules. Indeed, she is as much focused on achieving as she is on the joy of living and giving. May I now request Madam Sushma Paul Barlia to address the distinguished gathering.
I begin, as always, with the doha, the couplet. Guru Gobind Dau Khade, Guru Gobind Dau Khade Kake Lagu Paye, Balihari Guru Apne Jin Diye Gobind Bataye. My God and my Guru, both are standing before me. Who should I bow to first? Whose feet should I touch first? I would like to begin by touching the feet of my Guru, my teacher for life and for the spiritual journey, Dr. Stya Paul, because it is through him that I have learned to live life, and it is through him that I have come to know God. Brothers and sisters, excluding, of course, my sons, Nishant and Adit, if I may say that, it's such a joyful moment for me to be here to welcome back all of you after a hiatus of 2 years. I can't express how lovely and wonderful it feels to have you with us. And I want to thank you from the bottom of my heart on my behalf and behalf of our family for coming all the way from different parts of the country, leaving your work, even those who have been coming in from Delhi, to be with us on this very special occasion. I'm indeed also very, very grateful to Dr. Kamran Nizad for coming all the way from California to be with us today. It is a great honor and privilege to have him. Not that he requires any introduction at all, but I would like to say that he's a globally renowned, minimally invasive and robotic surgeon specializing in treating endometriosis. He's been called the father of modern day surgery for inventing and pioneering video-assisted endoscopic surgery. He paved the way for surgeons all over the world to advance the field of minimally invasive surgery. And while I'm not going to anticipate his complete introduction, but I did want to extend a grateful thanks and recognition of the fact that we have a global expert with us who would be delivering the oration on a very important topic of today: how to democratize and standardize surgery with special reference to minimal invasive gynecology. How can surgery be standardized and as a result, hopefully and gradually democratized, is one of the most important questions before us in the future. Techniques of the best surgeons in each field to be combined to render standardized procedures for different pathologies, which can ensure the highest quality of care being available to all. And for this, the best use of surgical technologies would include in the future and already initiated today, digital surgery and the subsequent new developments. There's a whole lot of it, and I'm sure we are eagerly awaiting to hear this from Dr. Nizat. I would just like to quote what was said about him by the AMA President Susan R. Bailey when he was being recognized for his contribution. He got the Distinguished Service Award for Meritorious Service in Science and Art of Medicine for the year 2020, which is the highest honor to have got. She said, "Innovation is a key driver in transforming healthcare, and Dr. Nizat's pioneering work has fundamentally changed contemporary surgery and opened a path for surgeons around the world to help their patients. He continues to push the leading edge of advanced procedures and the development of the safest, most efficacious techniques to enhance patient care and improve outcomes." At a more personal level, I had very interesting interactions with him, and particularly his contribution in the field of endometriosis through the initiation of the EndoMarch movement, which is focusing on creating both awareness and finding different techniques to be able to prevent surgery or at least make life easier while we are moving towards surgery. He has very kindly inducted me also yesterday into that society. I did have endometriosis, luckily after I had my family. And though I was quite well after that, but I can understand what it means to be able to do something for this widely prevalent, not so well recognized and not so well diagnosed issue that many, many women across this planet face. I would like to go back to Dr. Stya Paul, in whose honor we have instituted these awards, and also the keynote address that we are going to hear today. And I would also, in that context, like to think back to those COVID years, as we tend to call them. They have not been easy for any one of us here. We have lost some dear ones. We have lost some of our colleagues. We've lost some of our friends, family, but we have come through it. But in that coming through of it, first and foremost, I would like to, at this moment, ask us to give a big round of applause for all the heroes who are here today. It is only thanks to your dedicated efforts during COVID, without regard to your own personal safety, that we have been able to not only tackle COVID well in this country, but also, as many of you that I have been talking to were sharing with me, that how did you manage to have your patients taken care of during this period, even for other ailments which could have been in fact far more dangerous, whether it's oncology, whether they are heart issues, and so on. But one thing struck us in all of this. You know, I personally was in New York. I had gone to visit my son Nishant there his wife and children were there, of course, as well. And we got held up there because suddenly overnight the flights got cancelled. And, those were interesting months because New York, as you know, was the first, flashpoint, if you will. And since we were right in the middle of the city next to many of the hospitals, through the night, we were hearing all kinds of sirens, not only ambulances, but fire brigade, police, everything, because everybody had been pressed in to help to get patients to some kind of health care. And, when you are not sure of what a disease is about, suddenly you are there in the apartment, you don't know what is happening. It's not easy moments to be there in, apart from the scarcity of things that you could order in as well. But what struck me during then, and then things, of course, around the world and India as well, and we had to get up. We couldn't just sit there and wallow in the fact that what do we do, and we are now held up here. So that's when we all geared up, and whether it was, making sure that the medicines were made available at every nook and corner, whether it was making sure that virtual education was being delivered almost overnight. And again, our unsung heroes, the leaders of our educational institutions and the teachers. But what described this response, not just by us, but so many others, was resilience. So we looked at this quality of resilience. And then there were some people who managed very well being enclosed houses, apartments, whatever it is. And you had a situation where the grandchildren were on their laptops doing virtual education at school. Nishant and everybody else was doing their work on their laptops. I was trying to find my own corner to do my Zoom calls. It was a very interesting situation where you had two challenges. One, you didn't really get time for yourself in one sense, but on the other sense, one was not sure how you were going to live in that confined space for days and hours. We didn't get into any fights, you'd be happy to know, but it could have happened, So, but what I've been understanding, talking to many people, I think there are two values we don't think about so much. One is resilience, being able to face situations, to face unknown challenges, nothing that you could have ever dreamt of in your wildest dreams or have been prepared for. And then not only to be able to survive, but to be able to thrive and to find windows of opportunities to lift yourself higher. And that was one. And the other thing was, I was struck by the fact that how uncomfortable very many people were just being with themselves in, close quarters or in the apartments. And it struck me that many of us are not really acquainted with ourselves, if I may say so. We have a lot of external friends, but I think many of us haven't made friends with ourselves. Otherwise, why would we get bored? You should be your own best friend. You should enjoy spending time with ourselves. That inner journey, a lot of us have spent a lot of time understanding, pursuing knowledge of the external world. How many of us have really taken out that time to understand the internal world? And it's a huge world there. Anybody who has paused to admire the sunset or to smell a flower or just to stand by the ocean and watch the waves coming up and down? When you have that moment of calmness, when you are in the now, you're not in the past, you're not in the future. In that moment, you get an introduction to ourselves. And when we get that introduction to ourselves, that's how maybe we should pursue it further. I'm talking about these not only as lessons from the COVID situation that we went to, but they also echo in very many ways the values that was there in Dr. Satya Paul, my father. Somebody asked me the other day, each time, when you speak, you quote this couplet, which I just did, and you talk about him as being your guru. So what do you mean by saying that he was your guru? So if you'll bear with me, I'll just take a few minutes and explain what to me it means. Everybody has their own perception and description of who they consider to be a guru. From a broader perspective, anybody from whom that you have learned something useful is a guru. But when I was referring to him as my guru, and why I start always with that, is because he's somebody who did not teach me as much as taught me how to learn, whether it was life itself and whether it was spiritual concepts. He introduced me to a vast series of literature, philosophical and religious books, the autobiography of all those volumes of Swami Vivekananda, Gospel of Sri Ramakrishna, Kahlil Gibran, just to name a few, the Upanishads, Kathopanishad in particular, also Quran, Bible, Guru Granth Sahib, and some I read, some were interesting at that time, some may have gone a little over my head. And then he would have discussions, he would tell me stories. I remember when I had to choose my subjects in school. In India, you have to have a choice. And those days in class 9, whether you would go for English, history, geography, whatever, or you would go for the sciences. I was very puzzled. I wasn't sure what I wanted. So I asked him, please suggest. He said, sorry, you please make up your own mind what you want to do. So I thought, I was still very puzzled. So I said, at least you can advise me, on what to take. I'll decide after that. He said, no, you have to take your own call, but I'll do one thing for you. I can share with you how you should think about it. So logically, sit down with each of the choices, look at the pros, look at the cons, see what kind of things it can lead to in the future, what doors it can open or close for you by having made those choices, right? And then think not only with your head, but with your heart, and then be willing to live with the consequences of your choice. This is exactly what he did. As it happens, if you're curious, I chose science with biology. So that's a little bit I do understand. But this is what he was. That is being a guru to me. He set me free to find out for myself, to learn for myself, to be with myself. He did not try to direct me to do anything. He did not transfer to me his own mental conditioning, attitudes of what he thought was life. I call them his values. I call them human values. He didn't put a name to it. He lived it. So we were not afraid of him. Whatever I did, this was not a question of fear. It was not even a question of disappointing him. It was more a question of his making me understand that what should I be expecting from myself? How should I live my life so that I could attempt to be the grandest version of the potential that exists in each one of us? So This is maybe just a reflection. There is so much more. But why I say that he was my guru? If we look at the quality of resilience, it is actually, where does it come from? I tried to do a study of it. I don't think this is a perfect study, certainly not a scientific one, but I think it is definitely based on believing in oneself, in having the determination with one-pointedness to achieve what we want to achieve in life and never giving up. And this we saw exhibited in Dr. Satya Paul's life. We just saw that movie, but perhaps what it doesn't underline so well, that he was born in not such a well-off family. They were in a small business of making buckets. And you can understand how small when I tell you that he spent most of his childhood with the help of a lantern studying because they couldn't afford electricity. He studied 16 hours he put in, I believe, day in, day night. He had polio when he was 3 years, 2.5 to 3 years old. So he used to walk with crutches. His left leg was bent up. He couldn't afford, the family couldn't afford any surgery, nor there was well-known corrective surgery available in India at that time for polio. It was only much later in life when he could afford that he went to US, to Boston, Massachusetts General Hospital, and he had the surgery that allowed him to walk with calipers and a walking stick. But that didn't deter him when we are talking about resilience. Okay, he had polio, but he was playing in the hockey team of his school. He was the goalkeeper. I believe he was a better goalkeeper because he had 2 crutches to ward off the goal. He continued to study, lantern or no lantern. I have visited the school where he used to study. Huge steps and narrow steps. And he used to go up those every day and down with crutches. They used to sit on the floor. There were no table chairs. And he still studied. He went on to do his bachelor's. He went on to do his master's. We've heard that he was gold medalist in combined Punjab. This is despite all those things. So he wanted to go back to teaching because he loved education. That was very close to his heart always. He applied to a college. They refused him. They could in those days on the ground that he was physically challenged. So then he went back to this family business of making buckets or whatever it is. And then with time, they did well and things expanded. But education has always been very close to his heart. And he wanted to, India, he wanted every child to have access to the kind of education that would bring forth the best of their potential in every dimension, physical, mental, spiritual, emotional, while at the same time being rooted in human values, Indian culture, and globalization and scientific temperament. He soon realized that if he wanted to make it happen, he would have to set up initially his own schools, and then also he set up the APJ College of Fine Arts. Initially, that was only for women because women were not encouraged as much to study. But later on, we set up co-ed colleges, we had the university. I'll not get into all of that. I just wanted to share with you that why is it that we celebrate his memory? We are not celebrating his memory. We are celebrating his life because of the values that he exhibited. We want to perpetuate those both within ourselves and within all of us who hear or are inspired. There are not always that many role models around us. I'm particularly delighted that we have Dr. Nizat with us because I believe he does exhibit many of those qualities of heart and mind that we have been talking about. Dr. Satya Paul also was somebody who believed in giving, and nobody knew all that he gave other than when he passed away. And I had people coming to me from all walks of life, never heard of, never met, to express what he had done for them in so many ways, whether of himself or in terms of contribution. Maybe somebody wanted to set up a business and he gave them some capital, or he gave scholarships. They only came to know later that who had actually funded their education. He did a lot also for women education, that college in Charkhi Dadri, college in Jalandhar. And he was therefore talking about corporate responsibility much, much, much before anybody had ever thought of it. He always had a deep concern for the physically challenged, the underprivileged, and those who did not have access to treatment. For several decades, he served as the president of the Gulab Devi Hospital Trust, Jalandhar, and initiated several health schemes, including the free treatment of TB patients, polio patients, and the poor. He was actively involved with the mission of Ramakrishna Mission, Indian Council for Child Welfare, and many other such organizations, including Rotary, that worked for the upliftment and treatment of the needy and the physically challenged. It was also his desire to set up an institution of APJ dedicated to healthcare in the country. And on the accumulation of his dream of establishing APJ Satya University in 2010, he was quite keen to establish a center of excellence in healthcare within the university itself. At the APJ Satya and Swaran group, we've tried to carry forward his mission of contributing to healthcare, both in a foray into medically allied business that upholds the highest ethics and standards, but especially through the Walter Bushnell Healthcare Foundation. The foundation is amongst the many specialized centers of excellence of the APJ Satya University, set up in collaboration with institutions from private and public domain that cater to diversified domains such as design, innovation, biosciences, pharmaceuticals, incubation, and entrepreneurship. The aim of this foundation is to promote awareness of healthcare issues around the country and work with the medical fraternity to improve healthcare in the country and further the frontiers of medical research and innovation. Since we are meeting towards the, I hope, the end of COVID, and we have talked about resilience and strength, I thought I would end on a note from an Urdu couplet. Tunde bade mukalik se na dar e ukab, means do not be afraid of the force of the opposing winds, a bird who would fly high in the sky. Tunde bade mukalib se na dare ukab, ye to chalti hai tujhe uncha uthane ke liye. Do not be afraid of the force of the opposing winds, a bird who would fly high in the sky. They only blow to lift you higher and higher. And I think it has lifted us higher as human beings and in our approach to our work. Thank you.
Thank you so much, ma'am, for your very beautiful and inspiring words. Ladies and gentlemen, we are delighted to have Mr. Nishan Barlia also here with us today, eldest grandson of Dr. Satya Paul and son of Mrs. Sushma Paul Barlia and Mr. Vijay Barlia. Mr. Nishan Barlia is co-promoter APJ Satya and Swaran Group, a leading industrial house with diversified businesses in varied sectors. He is an alumnus of Stanford University, USA, and Harvard Business School, USA. Mr. Nishant Barlia is principally involved in the group's pharmaceutical vertical, comprising the flagship companies Walter Bushnell, Martin and Harris, and ASG Biochem. He also serves as General Secretary of the APJ Education and is Pro-Chancellor APJ Satya University. Mr. Barlia is also the past chairman of Education Committee and Health Committee of the PhD Chamber of Commerce and Industry and is past co-president of the Stanford Club of India. May I now request him to address the august gathering.
Good morning, respected dignitaries, esteemed doctors, ladies and gentlemen. First of all, I think Madam has said so many kind words already. And I must say it is such a pleasure to be here today, to have the opportunity to spend some time together and to see so many old friends, colleagues after such an extraordinary last couple of years. Today, I'm very delighted to have a very special person with us and a topic which I will take a little later in the schedule really to introduce. But I just wanted to add to what Madam Valia was talking about how important it is to us to have all of you here and also to have these conversations around the latest technologies innovation. I remember growing up for my grandfather, Mrs. Valia mentioned he had polio. We never thought of him as somebody who had any sort of affliction as such. But I still remember that polio corrective surgery. I remember hearing those stories of him traveling to Mass Gen in Boston to have the corrective surgery, which was not available in the country. And later on, he in fact supported and championed many corrective surgeries in the country later on. But it was something which was so extraordinary at that time and so life transformation. It made a huge difference as such to our personal lives as such. Mrs. Valia mentioned, if I allow, that she herself, what we call, had endometriosis. I remember I was very young at that time. I think I was in grade 1 or grade 2. My brother and my sister, they were even much more younger than me. That time, endometriosis was thought to be something which did not occur in India. It was thought as something to be a Western disease, not really occurring in India. Diagnosis was very difficult. And in fact, I was a very young man that time and I traveled with my father and my mother that time to London, where they had major open surgery around that time. I recall going to the hospital for nearly a month. It was a very long recovery, going through all those thoughts, etc. And only to learn today, very recently, that frankly, there were technologies being innovated at that time, which such a major surgery would not have been required at all. This was how the world, what we call, has changed. Today, the world is changing dramatically. We all have many innovations which are happening. In fact, last couple of years, in some ways, coming from industry and in the field of practice of medicine, a lot of revolutions are happening. There's a large acceptance as such of it. But really speaking, this is why it is so important to have an opportunity to discuss these ideas and thoughts, whether the innovations emerge from anywhere in the world to take things forward. So thank you again for coming all the way. We have people here from the tip of the north of the country, from Kashmir, from Imphal, from deep Tamil Nadu, from Gujarat, all around the country here. And we feel so blessed to have you and to have your interest in taking forward the care of our people, of our patients and healthcare in the country. Thank you so much.
Thank you, sir, for your very warm and kind words. Ladies and gentlemen, the IOG Journal has emerged as one of the most sought-after publications among the medical fraternity, and we are pleased to have Dr. J.B. Sharma, Editor-in-Chief of the journal, amongst us today. Dr. Sharma is professor in the Department of Obs and Gynae, All India Institute of Medical Sciences, New Delhi. He specializes in key gynecological areas, including urogynecology, genital tuberculosis, and medical disorders in pregnancy. He has served as professor at the Maulana Azad Medical College and has been associated with various hospitals in the UK. Dr. J.B. Sharma has over 300 publications in indexed and non-indexed national and international journals. He has presented over 200 papers in various conferences and has also chaired many sessions. He is a chairperson of the Urogynecology Foxy Society. He has been awarded many times by the Royal College of Obstetrics and Gynecology, London, and has won the Indian Council of Medical Research Award on his work on anemia during pregnancy. He was awarded the Honorable Dr. B.C. Roy Award for Research in 2015 by the President of India. He also won Dr. Labasetwar Award for his research in genital TB. He has also received the Foxy Lade Professor Kutty Lifetime Achievement Award in 64th AICOG and Dr. T.C. Anand Kumar Memorial Oration Gold Medal in ISSRF 2022. I now request Dr. Sharma to share his editorial insights on the IOG journal.
Thank you very much. Yeah. It's a real honor to be present here in front of such august gathering. So respected Madam Susma Pal Barlia, co-promoter and president APJ Satya and Swaran Group, co-founder and chancellor of APJ University and chairman of APJ Foundation. Dr. Cameron Najat, clinical professor of Obs and Gynae, University of California, San Francisco School of Medicine, adjunct clinical professor of surgery and Obs Gynae, Stanford University Medical School, and orator or main force behind today's function. And also Nishant Barlia and Aditya Barlia and our Foxy president and Dr. Narendra Malhotra and all other esteemed Dr. Sokumar, all other, I'm sorry, can't name everyone. So please, I welcome you all here on the behalf of IOG function. And as Nishant has already said, we have people from Madam from Kashmir, from Gujarat, from Impal, whole over the country. So I welcome all of you. So I'm delighted to share the details of Indian Obs and Gynae Journal, which was first started in January 2011 as a new specialty journal in Obs and Gynae to provide a platform to budding and established authors and researchers in Obs and Gynae to publish their research. The journal is published quarterly, but we are trying to make it maybe more often, and it publishes original research articles, review articles, case reports, book reviews, letters to editors, and other scientific information in the field of Obs, Gynae, infertility, and all the subspecialties of Obs and Gynae also, like assisted reproduction, fetal medicine, maternal medicine, reproductive endocrinology, Gynae oncology, urogynae, minimal invasive gynae. Apart from that, you can, I mean, other specialties can also send their work, like, you know, I mean, because of like obstetrics, pregnancy can basically complicate anything. Patient can have neurological disorder in pregnancy, dental disorder. So we get articles actually from other basic scientists, from physicians, from surgeons, even dental surgeon. I got dental problems in pregnancy. So everyone is welcome to contribute quality articles to us for that. All the articles are expected to be written in Vancouver style in accordance to uniform requirement for manuscript submitted to biomedical journals, and especially the references have to be written in Vancouver style. So this is same as in Jogi journal also, sir. And the time between submission and acceptance and publication is minimized by getting the articles promptly reviewed and sending the article back to the author for any corrections. So to cater to this ever demanding demand, we may publish it more often, as I said. And I wish to thank all the international and national editorial board members. We have got people from even from USA and UK on the editorial board, and the reviewers who work hard and selflessly for the journal by contributing and reviewing quality articles. So most important are our esteemed readers, of course, without whom the journal would not have been successful. And I'm very proud to say that the journal is recently indexed with UGC Care this year. Thank you very much. Yeah, before that it has already been, yeah, thank you. It was already indexed with the ABESCO of USA, which is basically, it provides a complete and optimized research solution comprised of e-journals, e-books, and research databases. That the journal was already indexed with Google Scholar, again of USA, which provides a simple way to broadly search for scholarly literature. And all our issues from the very beginning are on Google Scholar now. And recently, this UGC Care is the recent advancement this year. And now this basically, it has the responsibility of preparing the UGC Care reference list of quality journals, UGC Care list, and the objective is to promote quality research, academic integrity, and publication ethics in Indian university. So that is a good news for our authors, because UGC Care will be it will be accepted by MNC also. So when you are like giving interview for assistant professor, associate professor jobs, so UGC indexing is considered as a basically index journaling for that matter. And so we are in the process of applying for indexing with our more agencies also. And our final aim is indexation with the PubMed. Of course, so for that, I need help from all of you by sending your best research to us. So it is due to the contribution of quality studies by our esteemed authors and the untiring efforts of our editorial board members that the journal has, soared high, as Madam Susma Balia said, to soar high, as our original source Satyapal said. So our journal is also on the same path, sir. So I'm particularly thankful to APJ Satya Publishing Society for especially Madam Sushma Paul Barlia, co-promoter and president APJ Society, who selflessly published the journal as a service to the medical fraternity. But the journal is totally, sir, I mean, the publishing house and APJ are totally neutral to us. They never influence our decision about the article. They never interfere. So that is, we are independent of that. So we encourage researchers to submit high quality manuscript to the IOG describing their original clinical research finding and robust literature review that are of current academic interest, reports, novel diagnostic paradigm, and to summarize their treatment experiences to improve the quality of IOG further. So I'm especially thankful to our desk editors, Dr. Manju Purohit, Dr. Vishal Wahane and others, and of course desk and our editorial board member like Ashok Kumar has been very beginning from the very beginning, and I may not be able to name all. And so we'll request you also to contribute an editorial for our coming issue. So thank you very much. Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Sharma, for enlightening us regarding this path-breaking journal. In fact, it's a matter of great pride for us that IOG is indexed in EBSCO and Google Scholar. It has been recently included in UGC Care List in the year 2022. Hence, it is now a UGC-approved journal. I now request Dr. Cameron Nizhat to present green certificates to the editorial board members of the IOG Journal and the eminent personalities of the Obs and Gynae fraternity. I also request Madam Barlia to present the book Reflections in Time to them. The book has various couplets which were a source of great inspiration for Dr. Satya Paul. I would also request Mr. Nishant Barlia and Mr. Aditya Barlia to kindly join us on stage for this. So we begin with these green certificates. May I call upon stage first Dr. Ashok Kumar. Dr. Kiran Guleria. Dr. Pratap Kumar. Dr. Mala Raj. Dr. Meeta Singh. That's Dr. Meeta Singh. Can we have Dr. Anju Soni on stage, please? Dr. Anju Soni. Dr. Ratnabali Chakrabarti. Dr. Amit Patki. Dr. Jaideep Tang. Dr. Ramani Devi. Dr. Ramani Devi. Can we have Dr. Jaideep Malhotra, please? Dr. Narendra Malhotra. Dr. Sunila Khandelwal. Dr. Maninder Ahuja. Dr. Maninder Ahuja. Dr. Rishikesh Pai. A group photograph now, once Dr. Pai receives his certificate. One more. Thank you. Thank you so much. Thank you. Thank you so much. Ladies and gentlemen, as I mentioned earlier, the IOG Journal has emerged as a trusted and well-researched referral publication for the medical fraternity and is now indexed in EBSCO, Google Scholar, and has also been included in the UGC Care List. In order to maximize its reach across the globe, we are delighted to announce that the IOG Journal is available online with all its issues just a click away in a structured and reader-friendly format. I now request Dr. Nijhat to release the latest issue of IOG Journal. The latest issue of IOG Journal. And now I request Dr. Nijhat to release the IOG Journal online. Thank you, sir. Thank you so much. We hope that all of you will log into the website and become a part of the IOG family. While the display screens give you a digitalized view of the journal, the same has been included in your respective kits and is also present on the IOG website. Thank you once again, Dr. Nijat. The overall goal of IOG Awards Committee has always been to generate knowledge and evidence-based practices in the field of obs and gynae. Thus, the overall objective is to encourage collaborative research that expands knowledge and impacts practice. Since 2017, 5 new awards have been instituted to reflect the heterogeneity of our objective, with cross-divisional and institutional representation. For these new awards, an independent esteemed jury was constituted for selecting the awardees. We are sure that these awards will inspire the younger generation of doctors to strive for excellence in their work. I now request Madam Barlia, Dr. Kamran, and Dr. J.B. Sharma to kindly present these awards. I'll be taking the names of the awardees. We have the Excellence in High Risk Pregnancy Management Award, which goes to Dr. Narendra Malhotra for his outstanding work and contribution in the management of high-risk pregnancy. A big round of applause for Dr. Malhotra. He is the Managing Director of Global Rainbow Healthcare, Ujala Cygnus Rainbow Hospital, and Director of ART Rainbow IVF. Next prestigious award is the Excellence in Minimally Invasive Gynecology, and this is being awarded for outstanding work, research, and contribution in the field of minimally invasive surgery. Please put your hands together for Dr. Mala Raj. She is a specialist in laparoscopic surgery and infertility with over 20 years of experience and over 30,000 successful surgeries. Currently, she is the Managing Director of Firm Hospitals, Chennai. The next award being announced today is Excellence in Menopause Research and Services, which is being awarded to Dr. Meeta Singh for her outstanding work and contribution in the field of menopause. Please put your hands together for Dr. Meeta Singh, Co-Director and Chief Consultant, Tanveer Hospital, Hyderabad, Telangana. She was instrumental in drafting the Indian Clinical Practice Guidelines on Menopause 2020. Next is the award for Distinguished Chair. This award is to honor someone who has significantly impacted and enhanced patient care, demonstrated leadership in national and international organizations, led to the development of patient-centered educational programs, which demonstrate excellence in education as well as development of clinical programs, has achieved national and international reputation for excellence in clinical care, and provided mentorship and development to other clinicians. And the award goes to Dr. Jaideep Tank, renowned consultant at Ashwini Maternity and Surgical Hospital, Center for Endoscopy and IVF Mumbai, and visiting consultant for IVF at more than a dozen IVF centers. He's also the president-elect of FOGSI 2024-25. Let's hear it for Dr. Tang. And now we come to the Lifetime Achievement Award. The last award is the prestigious Lifetime Achievement Award. This award has been instituted for recognizing an eminent personality who has demonstrated more than 20 years of service in the field of obs and gynae, made a long-lasting contribution to the field of obs and gynae and community-engaged research, exhibited leadership and provided inspiration to others in the field, held positions of leadership such as editorial board members and chairs of scientific organizations at national and international levels, contributed to Indian government policies, national and international academic and other public forums, and has to his credit robust clinical research and publications and has mentored hundreds of students. And the award goes to Dr. Rishikesh Pai. It's for his outstanding contribution to the field of obs and gynae. He is the current president of FOXI, past president of IAGE, ISAR, and MOGS, and he has won 62 awards, including FRCOG from UK. A big round of applause for Dr. Pai, one of India's leading gynecologists and pioneer in ART. Now I would like to request Madam Barlia and Dr. Kamran Azhad to present and felicitate Dr. J.B. Sharma for his excellent editorial services towards IOG Journal. Can we have a group photograph with all our special awardees who were awarded just now? Can you please once again step up on stage? Let's have a group photograph of all these special awardees. Congratulations to all. And now, ladies and gentlemen, we proceed to the much awaited presentation of the IOG Dr. Satya Paul Awards 2022. The awards are being given to the authors of best papers published in the IOG journal under 3 categories: best case report, best review article, and best original study. The jury, comprising of national and international experts, reviewed all submissions to IOG for the year 2021. The names of the eminent authors were kept confidential to maintain complete authenticity. A lot of effort went into reviewing the submissions, and we would like to thank each of our jury members for that. Ladies and gentlemen, the award for the best case report goes to Dr. Alpana Singh, Professor, Department of Obs and Gynae, UCMS and GTB Hospital, New Delhi. Let's hear it for her. I now request her to come on stage and make a brief presentation of her case report, Rare and Deceptive Cause of Hypertension in Pregnancy.
Good morning, everyone. This is my privilege on behalf of my team who have been contributed for this case report to have this prestigious Satyapal Award, and my heartfelt thanks to Dr. J.B. Sharma and editorial board for selecting this case report. This is worth reporting this case report because it has taken a lot of hard work. In the resource constraint, we were able to manage such patient and salvage our patient. I am presenting my case report titled as Rare and Deceptive Cause of Hypertension in Pregnancy. I am presenting a case of 19-year-old Primi Gravida. She was a book case presented in our hospital at 29 weeks period of gestation. She was presented with severe headache and blurring of vision for 15 days. And along with that, she was having pain, abdomen, bleeding, pervaginum, and decreased fetal movement for 3 hours. There was no history of hypertension or any chronic disorder in the patient, and there's no significant family history. Since the first trimester of the pregnancy, she was having vomiting and headache and blurring of visions from the 2nd month of the pregnancy. This headache and blurring was progressively increased from the 2nd trimester, but her BP was normal throughout 1st and 2nd trimester of pregnancy. And since 3rd trimester of the pregnancy, she was started having severe headache and the loss of vision along with the far vision along with the blurring of vision. And at time of the admission, her BP was very high. 200 by 135 millimeter of mercury. Along that, she was having normal obstetric ultrasound and other investigations. At examination, her GCS was normal, but her pulse rate was high, 90 per minute, and BP was very high. Even repeat was also 200 by 120. There was no edema, and her chest and CVS finding were also normal. Her pupillary reflexes were also normal. In her per abdominal examination, uterus was 30 week size with a non-tender but tone was raised, and beach presentation with the fetal heart rate was normal. In her per speculum and per vaginal examination, there was a bleeding per vagina, but finding was not suggestive of in labor. So we made a clear provisional diagnosis of primary gravida at 29 weeks period of gestation with breech presentation along with severe preeclampsia or impending along with the antepartum hemorrhage. So on the further investigation, we found that LFT was mildly deranged. Her urine albumin was 3+, ECG showed ST segment depression, and along with that, we found grade 4 hypertensive retinopathy changes. We started the management on the line of severe preeclampsia. She was kept on Maxelf and the injection labetalol, and we planned the induction of labor in view of the abruption. But she was landed in the failed induction because of the poor biceps, and she was taken for the cesarean section. But perioperative and post-operative BP was very high, and it was very challenging for the anesthetist and obstetrician to manage that BP. We were unfortunate; we could not salvage this baby and died at day 2 of their life because of the extreme prematurity. In her postpartum course, you can see her BP is still very high and she was having persistently blurring of vision. And she was kept on 3 antihypertensive, amlodipine, enalapril, and Lasix. And on day 9, we diagnosed the case. Along with the above problem, she was also diagnosed peripartum cardiomyopathy. And on day 13 of ultrasound KUB was done. That was a surprising. And we got a surprise diagnosis of right adrenal adenoma. As we are running in the resource constant setup, we don't have all the investigation in the government setup. We could not diagnose this case by the metabolic test like the urinary catecholamine and MIBG scan, but yes, we planned CT scan, and in the CT scan, NCCT and the contrast CT, it was a further confirmed, yes, this is the case, was right-sided adrenal adenoma 4 into 4 centimeter. So on day 15 post-operative, we were able to make the final diagnosis of this case was a right adrenal pheochromocytoma along with the pregnancy challenges. Her post-op management after the diagnosis of the pheochromocytoma was very challenging for us because her BP was very high and she was started having the orthostatic hypotension. So she was shifted to the endocrinology department for further management, and pre-operative optimization of the BP was also challenging for the surgeon as well as the anesthetist. So she was kept on the blood pressure charting supine and the standing along with the 3 liter of the daily intake to prevent the orthostatic hypotension and 6 grams of the salt intake daily and blood sugar charting. We can see the orthostatic hypotension chart suggestive of the difference between the 40 millimeter of mercury between supine and the standing hypertension. Finally, after the 4 weeks, took the optimization of the patient, and we have taken this patient for open right adrenalectomy, and it was done and confirmed by the histopathology also. And we were lucky in immediate post-op. She was off of all the antihypertensive. Her BP was started normal, and her blurring of vision is persistent, but we were lucky enough to restore her vision after 2 weeks of the post-surgery, and blood pressure was throughout normal. And fundus changes after 2 weeks was also becomes the resolving, and she had grade 3 hypertensive retinopathy. ECG was suggested normal after the 2 weeks of adrenalectomy. So this was a challenging for us because a young patient with having the BP of 200 by 120, always it was a very disturbing for us. She might land up into the pulmonary edema, sudden stroke, or any type of the end organ damage. So it was a very tiring effort to manage this patient with the endocrinologist, surgeon, anesthetist to manage this patient. And it's a very rare tumor. It is a catecholamine secreting tumor. In the pregnancy, it is a very rare. So that's why we don't think about this earlier. We was always worried about it might be the severe preeclampsia. 1 in 54,000 pregnancy. And it has a prevalence in the pregnant patient with hypertension also very less, 0.1 to 0.6%. Mortality is very high in untreated cases. For the maternal is a 50% and fetus is also around 50 to 40%. But if it is timely diagnosis can salvage the baby. But in our case, she came in the very late stage, so we could not salvage this baby. So always you have to keep your alarm up. If the patient is having paroxysmal hypertension in the pregnancy and without proteinuria or edema, like in our patient, and persistent severe headache in spite of all the management, cardiomyopathy, and if the patient is having orthostatic hypertension, then there is a suspicion, and you should be start diagnosing in the line of pheochromocytoma. It was learned after the managing this patient, and the diagnosis is yes, biochemical by the free metanephrine test in the blood or the urine. But if it is not available, yes, ultrasound, MRI or CT can be. If the patient is pregnant, MRI is good and it is safe for the pregnancy. But like we have done in the postpartum case, so CT was also good for the diagnosis of pheochromocytoma. And BP should be optimized by the alpha beta blockers, and along with that, the fluid management. And timing of surgery is very important. If you diagnose early, you're lucky to diagnose less than 24 weeks. You can plan surgery either laparoscopically or open. If it is diagnosed beyond 24 weeks, then you have to take the fetus up to the age of the viability. And after that, you have to plan for the cesarean section. And traditionally, the people preferred doing the cesarean section along with the adenectomy in the one setting, or even in the many of the cases, it was the done even after day 3 postpartum in the cases diagnosed after the delivery. And about the delivery, it is yes, with epidural analgesia, if the BP is controlled, we can keep the patient for the delivery or the cesarean section. Earlier, the cesarean was the classical, but no, with epidural analgesia, we can plan the normal delivery also. And this patient requires a lifelong follow-up is associated with the syndrome, like the MEN2 syndrome or the VHL syndrome. Otherwise, there is a 10-year surgery follow-up is enough to see the recurrence. So lessons we have learned in this case: hypertension in pregnancy is not always gestational hypertension or preeclampsia. Timely diagnosis of pheochromocytoma is a challenge, and antenatal medical management dramatically improves the outcome. And yes, it requires a multidisciplinary team, like in our case, obstetrician, endocrinologist, anesthetist, and the surgeon. And especially in the setup of the resource, having the all type of the problem handling capacity. So hypertension in the pregnancy is just a haywire. It is not simple that. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Singh, and congratulations. I request Dr. Nijat to present the award for the best case report to Dr. Alpana Singh.
Basically, when this case came, no, that it's jury international and 2 national, so they gave this the best. I said, hypertension, what's so rare about it? I wanted to overrule, but then when I saw the overall case scenario, it was really, I mean, which gives us lesson. So any hypertension, I mean, we must think of pheochromocytoma. It was life-saving procedure by them. So thank you very much.
Best case report for Dr. Alpana Singh. I also request the co-authors, Dr. Suman Chaudhary, Senior Resident, and Dr. Kiran Guleria, Director, Professor, Department of Obs and Gynae, UCMS and GTB Hospital, to also come on stage to receive their certificates. Dr. Suman Chaudhary and Dr. Kiran Guleria, the co-authors. And I also request Dr. Alpana Singh to collect these certificates on behalf of the other co-authors, Dr. Nishant Raizada, Dr. Pallavi Behel, and Dr. Shilpa Singh. Thank you. Thank you so much. And we now come to the presentation of the IOG Awards for the Best Review Article. The award for the Best Review Article goes to Dr. Neerja Goel, Professor and HOD, Department of Obs and Gynae, SMS, and R. Sharda University, Greater Noida. I invite her on stage to make a brief presentation. She has reviewed the impact of nutrition on COVID-19 infected pregnant women in an excellent manner. Dr. Neerja Goyal.
A very good morning to all. I will be presenting the impact of nutrition on COVID-19 infected pregnant women. Now, after the occurrence of Spanish flu, COVID-19 originated in March 2020, when WHO proclaimed as pandemic. In India, total cases have been 4 crores and more than 5 lakhs deaths have been witnessed. COVID-19 is caused by highly transmissible RNA virus, the symptoms of which are respiratory infection, fever, dry cough, and exhaustion. It poses great health challenge to pregnant women because they are vulnerable to infection due to altered hormones affecting immune system. So they need special preventive measures like hand washing, social distancing, healthy food habits, and supportive nutrition. Urgent plans are needed to diminish transmission and decrease complications. Why pregnancy is at risk? Because it has got alteration in immunity which protects against pathogens. There are 2 types of immunity, innate and adaptive. Activation of innate immunity is caused by saturated fats, causing a lipotoxic state, releasing pro-inflammatory mediators, causing lung damage. There is another type of immunity that is known as the adaptive immunity. It is caused by the intake of Western diet, which is high in fat and high calories. This also causes chronic inflammation of lungs. What are the risk factors? Obesity is the main risk factor because obesity and pregnancy, they act synergistically and affect the immunocompromised state. There are 3 possible mechanisms: reduced antiviral cytokine expression, response to leptin and adileptin, and obesity increases weight gain that disrupts the TH1 and TH2 balance. Now, what is the ideal dietary basket during COVID times? The general guidelines are there should be minimal saturated fats or sugar, high amount of fiber, whole grains, unsaturated fat, and antioxidants, and the recommended daily allowance, which includes adequate energy, proteins, omega-3 fatty acids, polyunsaturated fatty acids, zinc, vitamin D, iron, folate, calcium, and choline. Now, once you take an ideal dietary basket, what happens? You supply multiple micronutrients, which decreases the untoward maternal, fetal, and neonatal parameters. And these parameters are reduction in stillbirth, infant mortality rate, low birth weight rate, and preterm births. Now, what is the nutrition advice during lockdowns? One should take balanced diet, mindful eating. And what do you mean by mindful eating? This is for all of us. You should eat while sitting, not eat while walking and strolling, no distractions, small bites, chewing 30 times single bite, and finishing as soon as you are full. Don't overfull your tummy. Keep hydrated, safe food hygiene, wash hands, cover mouth. During sneezing, wash vegetables and fruit. Keep the fruits and vegetables on a clean surface, keeping separately raw and cooked food. Reheat food before eating. Now, what is the guidelines for activity during COVID? To remain active all the time, constant motion, 30 minutes walk per day if possible, physical activity by online classes and stretching exercises, not more than 1 hour sleep during daytime. Now practice sleep hygiene. And what is this? 7 hours quality sleep during night, sleeping and getting up at the same time, limit alcohol intake, avoid caffeine, use comfortable bedding, keep the room dark and quiet, no noisy electronics. Now, what is the dietary advice to ANC patients? One should take universal precautions about COVID-19 vaccination. It is not universally accepted, and we should give food basket of 2,500 kilocalories, which contains 3 to 4 portions of protein and dairy products and all micronutrients. Now, what is the individual micronutrients? One already knows we should give protein, omega-3 fatty acids, vitamin D, zinc, iron, and folate. Now, this was the nutritional advice before the patient is infected. But once the patient is infected, what is the advice? 80% of women have mild disease. They require same management as non-infected women. 20% have severe or critical disease, which are associated with ARDS, DIC, ARF, MSOF, and shock. And maternal risk factors include increasing age, increasing BMI, hypertension, and diabetes. Now, once the patient is critically ill, the challenges are due to physiological changes of pregnancy and fetal life. No definite cure is there, only supportive treatment is described, and nutritional care is same as any other ICU patient. Now, what are the challenges? It is the catabolic state, loss of lean body mass, electrolyte imbalance, alteration in nitrogen balance, increased infection and inflammation, and prolonged starvation for more than 2 days affect the fetus. Now, what are the principles of ICU nutrition? The preferred type is enteral or oral nutrition. Should be started at earliest after initial parenteral nutrition. This provides all the nutrients to the fetus, prevents catabolism, medical nutritional therapy, MNT should be started, and basal requirement is 25 kilocalories per kg per day. Now, there are 3 principles of ICU care: cluster care, adherence to CDC, and PP kit usage. Now, European Society for Clinical Nutrition and Metabolism guided, once the patient is serious, you admit and start oral therapy. If the patient is on NIV or high flow nasal cannula, one can give, target is 20 kilocalories per kg per day, and proteins. If patient can tolerate enteral, it is very good. But if the patient is on mechanical ventilation, then we give parenteral nutrition. Now, pre-intubation period, once the patient is on FNC, HFNC, or non-invasive ventilation, we give oral therapy. But when the patient is on ventilation, then we give 70% of energy requirement in early phase, then come to 80 to 100% energy after 3 days, and physical activity is done by passive exercise, and patient who cannot tolerate enteral nutrition, especially the ones who are hypoxemic, hypercapnic, acidotic, and in shock, we give parenteral nutrition. Blood glucose, electrolytes, and ABG should be maintained. Now, after the post ventilation period, we have to take care of the dysphagia because the patient has a prolonged nasogastric tube. So textured adapted food should be given, that is a soft food, and no swallowing should be allowed till the patient is better. So to conclude, delivery of nutritional therapy during pregnancy follows same principles as non-COVID patients. Delivery of nutritional therapy in infective patients follows basic principle of any other non-COVID critically ill patient. Pregnancy poses challenges due to simultaneously growing fetus and altered immunity, cornerstone being metabolic control and nutritional support. Any delay induces energy and protein deficit, so longer length of stay requires rehabilitation for the survivors. So need to promote cluster care, PPE kits, reduce frequency of interaction, minimize contamination. Usually, even critically ill patients can tolerate enteral nutrition till NIV, CPAP, or PEEP, but patients with shock are best treated by parenteral nutrition. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Nirja, and many congratulations. I request once again Dr. Nijat to present the award, this time for the best review article, to Dr. Nirja. I also request the co-authors, Dr. Archana Mehta and Dr. Geeta Rai, both from Department of Ops and Gynae, SMS and R, Sharda University, Greater Noida, to kindly come on stage to receive their certificates. The co-authors, Dr. Archana Mehta and Dr. Geeta Rai. And I request Dr. Nirja to collect certificates on behalf of the other co-authors, Dr. Vikas Yadav, Dr. Himani Garg, and Dr. Naima Afreen. Thank you. So now we come to the presentation of the IOG Awards for the Best Original Study. The award for the Best Original Study goes to Dr. Swati Tomar, Research Officer, Department of Ops and Gynae, AIIMS, New Delhi. A big round of applause for her. She'll make her
Swati has just
presentation now.
got assistant professor job, so she ever since paper was this was released, so it's lucky for her. She has become permanent faculty in AIIMS. Just yeah, same day when the award was announced. So
Her brief presentation now on original study of Birch Colpo suspension versus transobturator vaginal tape procedure for the treatment of stress urinary incontinence in women.
Good afternoon, one and all present here, and thank you very much for considering me for this honor. Can I begin my presentation? Yeah. Yeah. So this is a part of my MD thesis where we evaluated the outcomes in women who underwent either Birch Colpo suspension or transobturator vaginal tape procedure for the treatment of stress urinary incontinence in the Indian scenario. So as we know, it's a very common problem, and in fact, it can be up to 46% of the women in the postmenopausal group can be affected. And the gold standard procedure is a Birch Colpo suspension with an overall cure rate up to 90% in the first year and 70% after 5 years. The other procedures which are described and are the transobturator tape, which was first introduced in 2001, and later the inside out was introduced in 2003. So the aim of this study was to compare the Birch Colpo suspension and transobturator vaginal tape procedure in the women with SUI in terms of success rate, surgical trauma, complications, and quality of life scores, which was assessed by the King's Health Questionnaire. So this was a prospective study, and before its commencement, it was approved by the Institutional Ethics Committee, and we included Paris women who were aged 31 to 65 years and who had genuine incontinence and had previous failed medical treatment for their condition. We excluded the women who had previous failed surgeries for SUI or uterine prolapse, or any more than first degree of vaginal prolapse was also excluded. People with neurological disorder, previous spinal surgeries, or any other problems like multiple sclerosis, gestures, or overactivity were also excluded. So we included only, we could include 33 women with genuine stress incontinence, and they then underwent thorough clinical and urogynecological examination. They underwent urodynamic studies, and we assessed the abdominal leak pressure point. We also subjectively assessed the impact of the condition on their health by King's Health Questionnaire, and the surgical trauma was assessed using the measuring the serum interleukin 6 and C-reactive protein levels. So we then randomized our patients into two groups. The group one was the who underwent the Birch Colpo suspension, and we included total of 15 patients. And the other group underwent TVTO procedure, and we had total of 18 patients. So after this, we followed them at 1 week. We did the clinical examination, and post-operatively for the surgical stress, we measured the CRP and the interleukin 6 levels at 1 month. We again examined them clinically, and at 6 months, we assessed the cure rate by clinical examination and subjectively assessed the improvement in the quality by the King's Health Questionnaire. So the baseline characteristics between our group was comparable, and all the patients, women, had the clinically demonstrable SUI and cough test and had a positive Boney's test. So majority of our procedures were under general anesthesia. So when we look at our primary outcomes, we found that the duration of surgery, post-operative painkiller requirement, catheterization, and hospital stay was significantly reduced in the women who underwent transobturator vaginal trip procedure. We also saw that there was an early ambulation and earlier discharge. Most of our patients, most of course was unremarkable, and only one patient had urinary retention. So, and when we looked at the surgical stress, we found out that the pre-operative levels was comparable between both the groups. The post-operative levels of both the surgical markers was elevated, but however, we could not find that there was a difference between the two groups. It was maybe because that we did not, we measured it at 1 week after the surgery. So the total cure rate was at 6 months was 100% for the Birch Colpo suspension group, and it was around 89% for TVTO group. So this was also, we found that out of all the 9 parameters domains of the King's Health Questionnaire subjective assessment of the women's health, we found that all the parameters significantly improved after the surgery for both the groups. So the limitation of my study was there was a small sample size, and the follow-up period was only 6 months, and the acute phase reactants were not measured at a frequent interval. And so to conclude that these are both effective surgical procedures for treating SUI, but the TVTO procedure was significantly associated with lesser operating time, post-operative analgesic requirement, catheterization, and hospital stay. And the King's Health Questionnaire was a very useful for subjectively assessing the impact on the women's health, and we found that also between the two groups, it was not, it was comparable. So TVT is gaining wider acceptance, but the long-term results needs to be assessed. Thank you very much. And I thank all my chief guide and all my mentors, co-guides, and all my patients for this study. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Dr. Swati, and many congratulations. I request Dr. Najat to present the award of the Best Original Study to Dr. Swati Tomar. Dr. J.B. Sharma is the co-author of this, and this time he receives the certificate. And Swati will also collect on behalf of her co-authors, Dr. Aish Seth, Dr. Alpana Sharma, Dr. Sunesh Kumar, Dr. K.K. Roy, and Dr. Perumal, all from AIIMS, New Delhi. Thank you. Thank you so much. I now request Mr. Nishant Barlia to formally introduce Dr. Nijat to all of us. He's our esteemed chief guest and orator of the 9th IOG Dr. Satyapal Award function.
First of all, thank you again. And when I was asked to introduce Dr. Kamran Azad, it was a very, I have to say, when I was reading about his life, his journey, it was very inspiring and a very humbling, what we call experience as such. I think the first thing I'd like to say is that, today, and with your permission, so I can say that in my generation, minimally invasive surgery is such a common expectation, whether you're a patient or for friends who are in medical practice or as such. Rather, it is not having a minimal invasive surgery which has become the odd person out. And this has been such a blessing, because the laparotomy, which to us who are, I wouldn't get into the medical side because of course technically there's so many people who can comment more on it, but the idea of a large incision, 12 to 14 inches, the shock to the system, the recovery times, everything, and many people also have to go through such multiple surgeries as well. This was actually the practice for almost 200 years, including in some of the finance institutions as such, what we call all as such around the world. The fact that we moved away from that has been a blessing, and that blessing has been to a very large extent to the efforts and the achievement, and I would maybe even say crusade of Dr. Kamran Azad, who has been called as the father of modern day surgery for inventing and pioneering video assisted endoscopic surgery, which to this day is still rapidly changing old techniques of open surgery. His developments have revolutionized and gradually replaced laparoscopy. And his team, which is a very extraordinary story as well for his team, which includes two of his brothers as well, have performed some of the most advanced laparoscopic surgical procedures around the world. In fact, one of the most astonishing things, if you read, to give a sense of the vision Professor Azad had, was in the 80s, he had said that I believe a day will come when most surgeries will be performed as minimally invasive surgery. And he was sharing with us, and I mean, it's a story really to read, how it took 20 years of struggle against so much belief, dogma, which existed in traditional practice for that world to change. I was really finding the early 2000s, where the New England Journal of Medicine finally accepted what we call his achievements, not only in the field of gynecology, but across the board. And while today we are talking more on a gynecological forum, his techniques, his procedures, his research, his collaborations have affected every field, whether it is urology, gastroenterology, cardiology, so many other areas, pulmonary as well. Those technologies and techniques have gone forward. Professor Azad is also a professor of Obs and Gynae, University of California, San Francisco School of Medicine, as well as the chair of Association of Adjunct Clinical Faculty at my alma mater at Stanford University, where for many years he has been leading the forefront of teaching these techniques to the medical fraternity in the US, as well as then from there globally. He's a recipient, as we shared earlier, of AMA's highest honor, the Distinguished Services Award for Meritorious Service of Science and Art in 2020. But I think most of all, Mr. Cameron, is really an extraordinary journey of inspiration. How somebody from a small town in Shareza, I hope that's the right, Shareza, small rural town, where in central Iran, how that journey started and how that journey led to such extraordinary change, not only in the field of medicine, but really that change and has affected the lives of every one of us, or will in one way or the other. So once again, ladies and gentlemen, it is my request now and great honor and privilege to request Dr. Nazar to come and to deliver his oration lecture on the much awaited topic, how to democratize and standardize surgeries with special reference to minimal invasive gynecology. Thank you very much.
Which one?
One of you be here around. He will be here.
Hello, everybody. It is really a true honor and privilege for me to be amongst you. Mark Twain, the American writer, said, "Age is a matter of mind. If you don't mind, it doesn't matter." Those of you who are here, thank you. Those of you who are here, it doesn't matter how old you are. You have a young mind. I promise you, because you are here, as God bless the soul of Stya Powell, his favorite quote has been that you are an eagle. You are a Shaheen. You are an eagle. And skies are your domain. Because you fly, you do parwaz. And the more you go, the more skies you are going to conquer. Thank you. And that is what the favorite quote of your father, your grandfather. So I promise you one thing. I have known many of you and many of your colleagues here that are here and some who are not here. Those of you who are here still have the great mind. And I promise you, after my lecture, you will be a different person. Somehow you will be changed. And you will be part of this journey because you will be interested to what I say and how you can change the world as Dr. Paul and his family have done so significantly for India and globally. And that is true. And I will tell you why I say that. When Professor Sharma invited me to come here, very politely, I asked him, "Thank you so much. Please excuse me, I will come another time," because December is the busiest time in United States. And for me as a surgeon, I have to do a lot of surgery. And for me to take 1 week away, it is at least 20 surgeries that people need me. And I declined, and he was very kind, and he insisted, he says, "Please, please." And those of you who know me, for me, it's very difficult to say no. So I said yes, and I am so happy I accepted, really. Because my life is being changed by all of you and by the teachings of Dr. Satyya Paul, who was a karma yogi, and I believe many of the beliefs, almost all of it that he says, I feel the same way. So it's an honor to be here. And I was introduced to your great country 27 years ago by an Indian, Dr. Radha Sayad, who is from New Delhi, that this is my fourth time coming here. And every time I come to India, totally a different life changing. And I see how India has changed and how progress has made. And I congratulate you because you have the mind here and you have the volume of the people to take medicine to the next generation of the area. As you know, Nishant was saying, minimally invasive surgery has changed the life of the majority of the people in the developed countries or in India, in centers like the centers of Professor Sharma and all of you who are very accomplished. And it is almost all the laparotomies can be avoided by surgery. And could be, all the laparotomies could be avoided. I want to tell you, for those of you who have the mind and you want to listen to me, I will show you, you can be the force of a change. We have already started this course, and you can be part of it as well, and if you are interested. So please bear with me and listen to tell you how you, any of you, can be part of this, because in India, you have the brightest mind of technology. In US, the head of Google, some of the other major organizations are Indian. So you have the mind. And you have the physicians, some of the best physicians that I know that are Indian. So, and I have trained many of them. So put it together, and I have already started too. I would be happy to share with you and tell you how what I say, the minimally invasive surgery is for everybody, poor and rich, equal. Everybody now has an iPhone or Android or has a cell phone. You go to the poorest countries in the world, they don't have enough to eat, but they have a cell phone. That is true. I have been in Africa, I have been area, people that they don't really have enough to eat, but they have a cell phone. Technology is going to change the world, and you will see it. And you are young enough in mind, and you see how the technology, and I predicted, and I already see it. I am already doing a lot of this for us in our work. And before I tell you how to do it, I would tell you a little bit of the past to tell you I'm not just saying, because I have experienced it and I have the experience of knowing the road, how to get there. So here, I think it was Walter or somebody, it has been, this quotation has been given to different people, that they say when something is new, everybody say, oh, it is not true. Many, many years goes by, it is proven true. People, they say, oh, it's not important. Many, many more years goes by, it is proven to be important. People, they say it is not new anymore. I have experienced it many times. So the past of surgery, and you have seen it in surgery happen. The first time laparotomy was done in 18th century. And when he said it, Ibrahim McLeod, when he did the laparotomy, at that time, the biggest British medical journal said totally it is untrue, it is a lie, it is impossible. Then a decade later, when it was proven to be true, he apologized and he said he asked for forgiveness. And it is obvious because in 18th century, there was no technology. Even when you wanted to teach something in the auditorium, people, they were mostly asleep. You couldn't even look. It was very hard even for the assistant to see anything. It took 100 years later that from vertical incision, you go to fenestel incision. Even when that was done, It took another 100 years that the data proved that by fan-style incision, the results are better than vertical incision. It took about 100 years. In medicine, everything goes slowly. But technology, the same thing happened with endoscopic surgery. 1800, nothing happened. 100 later, some physicians that they have done some minor procedures by laparoscope. The most advanced procedure was done by Gomel for salpingo variolysis and Kurtzem for appendectomy. But still the technique was like this. Nobody was doing anything because it was difficult for people to see. And I admire you to pay so much attention. You have the great young mind. So many of you here, if you look here by this attachment, still in the 70s, the general surgeons, they were recommending this. This simple video that we started, that was a world changer. It was very funny. That is one of the first videos that I started hanging from the ceiling to do endoscopic surgery. And most of the journals at that time, they were rejecting it, that it is impossible and it is dangerous. Those of you who routinely do laparoscopic surgery without video, you don't even think about it. I mean, you do it with video because you think that is the way it is. To begin with, it was a battle and a fight that people, they were essentially fighting. Why do you want to operate on the monitor? And it was the public that accepted the minimally invasive surgery first. When I was doing that, I had been in the United States less than 12 years, that because of my patient population, patients were coming to me without any request for publicity. The Time magazine and Newsweek magazine started publishing about minimally invasive surgery. The same was on Time magazine, and in the Newsweek magazine in 1990, and as Nishant mentioned, I thought in about 20 years, major abdominal surgery would be nearly extinct. It was not until 1986 that Journal of Fertility and Sterility finally accepted one of our papers to publish about a stage 4 endometriosis to be done by laparoscope. I wanted to pay attention here that it takes time. For those of you who have ideas, you want to do it, you will have opposition. Don't worry about it. If you believe in your idea, if you believe in what you want to do and you think it is good, and the proof shows you it is good, stick with it. When I wanted to publish that paper, and finally the editor of the Journal of Fertility, a very bright man, Dr. Dicherny, he took a risk because it was a stage 4 endometriosis for the first time. They sent, people came, they watched, I am doing this, and I had shown the video, and they published the paper. And at that time, I said, if severe endometriosis could be done by laparoscope, you can practically do everything by laparoscope, and the patient would benefit. So do you follow me? So it takes time, almost 10 years later, but following that by video laparoscope, some people like Mouret in Germany, Mouret in France, they did cholecystectomy. Hayevich in US did hysterectomy, in prostatectomy in 1991 in US, and also some of the debulking of cancer in France. And the first radical hysterectomy, para-aortic and pelvic node dissection that we performed in 1989 and published it in, it took 3 years for people to publish it. Nobody wanted to even publish it. Actually, we had to hide it inside of one of our publications to finally say it, because although we had presented it, it was difficulty publishing the radical hysterectomy that our last winner of the award, she was mentioning it. So that paper, it took about that procedure. I want you to show you a contrast. And then if you look at this radical hysterectomy videotape here, I want to show you some of these clips to see how this procedure in 1989, this is the first laparoscopic radical hysterectomy we did. The only reason that I show part of it, I want you to see the difference how much you do things differently. How, for example, we are removing para-aortic and pelvic nodes here. Look, the technology that we do, we have come really, really a long, different wall. This is para-aortic area. And we are removing the nodes around the aorta. Remember, ladies and gentlemen, this is in 1989. This procedure, for the first time, it took us 7 hours to do with my colleagues. I do this procedure in a patient like that now. I have done it as fast as 25 minutes. And at that time, this patient stayed in the hospital. Thank you. At that time, and I'm sure many of you have great surgeons in India, you do the same because you have the volume, the number, and you can do it because you have a lot of practice. The more you practice, the more the travel the same road, it is easier for you. After a while, you can close your eyes and drive your car to your home, or you don't even have to think about it. Surgery is the same. So this procedure, if you look in 1989, 7 hours now, patient stayed in the hospital 1 day at that time, and patient did very well, and she is still alive and doing very well. And now you are doing it totally differently. You don't use any of this technology that we did. The reason I want to show you is that life changes, technology advances, but principle is the same. The principle of the surgery, of the radical procedure to get into the spaces is the same, and the anatomy is the same, and you do the same work over and over. This procedure of radical hysterectomy, para-aortic pelvic node, and I know in India, many of your great surgeons are doing it. It is much faster because the technology is changing and because we are able to show with videotape. When we showed this videotape, originally, this, as I said, it took almost 3 years to publish it. And you go to the next slide. You can see they call it gimmick. This is the biggest journal in OBGYN in the United States. They call it a gimmick. And actually another person in the same journal, they made fun of that radical hysterectomy, and they decided to write laparoscopic vaginal delivery. Of course, you know, you don't do laparoscopic vaginal delivery. That's a joke. And what they did, they referenced our paper we had published finally about radical hysterectomy. I showed it because they meant well. They probably had good intentions, but obviously it was not their greatest or finest moment because the world proved them wrong. After that, the same thing. We did laparoscopic bowel resection for the first time in 1988. And we published it with, we worked with other group with Dr. Earl Pennington, God bless his soul. He's one of the original colorectal surgeons we worked with. And we published it in very good journal. Gynecologists did the first laparoscopic bowel resection, and we performed it. And when and I will show you the videotape of laparoscopic bowel resection. The first laparoscopic bowel resection that we performed, it was in 1980s, and you can see a part of it, one of the techniques, and you can see essentially the principle is the same thing. And if you look at it, this is the bowel resection. We are endometriosis performing, penetrating the bowel. And as all of you know, endometriosis is my passion. And this is again in the 1980s, that is a proctoscope, and we started excising the lesions in the bowel. I want to show you this because of the time and the technology. You can see the mind is the same. Even now, the bowel, the principle of the bowel resection with different techniques. This one, it is a disc excision. And of course, we do segmental resection the same way. This is inside of the bowel. And you can see the mucosa of the bowel. And we are removing a section of the bowel. And then we are repairing it. Mind you, this is in the 1980s because we published it beginning of 1988. So the technology, and we can see we practically didn't have anything I didn't have even needle holders, and the suture that we were using, you can see it was very, very primary and very, there was nothing. We had to make it up to do the procedures very safely for us, and we helped the patient because we knew it is working. That is the original. How you can see now the life has changed, and you can do the same procedures much, much easier, faster, and remember how many laparotomies you can avoid. So these techniques I show you, these are the holy grails of surgery. Bowel resection is one of the most difficult procedures, and radical hysterectomy is the most difficult procedure in gynecology. So if you can do that, practically you can do anything. And again, this was beginning of 1980s. When we wanted to publish this, the editor of one of the journals called it barbaric. Obviously, this was a colorectal surgery journal, we couldn't accept it. They didn't even know gynecologists are able to do that, and they even consider gynecology probably not surgery. They didn't think that gynecologists can do surgery and innovate. But as time went on, New England Journal of Medicine in 2004 said that is the way it has to be done. Now the majority of them are going to be done. Now, when you move the dermoid cyst, even the dermoid cyst people, even the simple dermoid cyst in 1989, there was opposition to it. And we continued, I am telling you, for those of you who are interested to believe in your work, that you should not stop you should not get disappointed. The reason I'm showing you so many of these videotapes, every time they told us, don't do that, that is dangerous, because we proved the patient was doing very well, patient was feeling well. So we continue to do our work, and despite all the negative say, and this negativity lasted 25 years. It wasn't that easy, but ultimately the results pay off. For example, we kept on going. We did the ovarian remnant syndrome by laparoscope. We did it with the urologists. We worked not only gynecology and general surgery, we worked with the urologist, and we did the first ever laparoscopic ureter resection and reanastomosis. And also we continue to do vaginal wall suspension with another colleague. And we did laparoscopic treatment of endometriosis of the diaphragm. So the first operation around the chest by video-assisted thoracoscopy, VATS procedure, and by laparoscopy combined, again, we did it, that was, as you can see, in 1992. So segmental bladder resection, again, in 1992 or three. And we continue to work with vesicovaginal fistula report. So a variety of the different procedures. Even we proceed to the advanced ovarian cancer, to the debulking of the advanced ovarian cancer, is where we will continue to do all of that despite a lot of negativism and a lot of opposition against us, okay? I tell you this, again, not because I just wanted to learn from history and tell you what I tell you next, and you are interested to do, you keep going and you will see how you in India, because you have the minds and the technology and the volume, you can be one of the people who could make a standardized and democratized surgery, and your people could benefit from it, because we have already started that. We have done so many of other new procedures that I don't want, including liver and all of that, but I told you again, the opposition was all over. One of them from Lancet in 1996, still they were thinking that laparoscopic surgery is terrible. And in the same journal in Lancet, we published a rebuttal to that article, and we told them, just give it time, and you will see. Now, if you go ahead and you see that we continued our work by Ajit Shah, who is an Indian in America, and we worked with him to develop the Da Vinci robot. And you know how the Da Vinci robot made the surgery and endoscopic surgery even easier. So if you look here, endometriosis on the diaphragm, in this case, how you could perform excellent surgery, and with on the diaphragm, here you can see the liver has herniated to the diaphragm. It is endometriosis and lipoma in the liver has herniated through the diaphragm, and you can see all endometriosis of the liver again, and the diaphragm with herniation from the liver going to the chest, towards the chest, and you can see how much the technology has advanced that you can help patients like that with a minimally invasive surgery, with the development of the robotic arm, how you go. Right now, we are looking again in the chest wall, because of the magnification, because of the capability of endoscopic surgery, allows you to see better, to do better, to act better, and gives you better visualization. You can treat endometriosis of the diaphragm near the chest wall and the liver, all of them with minimally access surgery, because of the progress of minimally invasive surgery, that it is getting better and better towards, again, what I want you to be, those of you who have very young mind, interested mind, and you know some of the road to continue for the next level. And I will tell you how the roadmap is for your interest. So right now, everybody says minimally invasive and robotic assisted surgery is the future. Everybody has accepted that. As I said, New England Journal of Medicine in 2004, the same procedure that when we had done it, they called it barbaric. New England Journal of Medicine, in an editorial after a randomized clinical trial, showed that bowel resection is better to do it by laparoscope. New England Journal of Medicine said, oh, that's the way to do it. That's the way to go. And that is the way that indeed is the way to go. And even, you remember the same green journal that they called it a gimmick, and they made fun of it. They came, I give them credit. They came and they accepted it that they have been wrong, and it is the way to go. So right now, the technology, you know that there is, at the present time, many ways you can do things, and open surgery is one, minimal invasive surgery is one, natural orifice surgery is one, image-guided surgery, focused ultrasound energy, cyber knife, and gastrointestinal natural orifice surgery, all of them that are coming into action. And you know, all of you, artificial, these are the realities. I want you to pay attention to this part, because that is when I want you to get to the next level, those of you who are really interested. These are a reality, artificial blood vessels, tissue engineering of the ureter and bladder. These are real. Cell surgery, I'm sure some of you do it in India. Genetically designed child, these are realities now. And you have the genetic screening technology for you can do cloning of the human being. This is actually, and for good or bad, even now, it is at least for sure you can do it, and you never know. It might be done. It might be being done. Genome surgery and CRISPR surgery is a reality in the year 2020. This is being done. This is a reality. So 3D printing is here. So is it going to be another 100 years that we get it for everybody? No. And that is what I have started with my team, and we are working on it. And remember what I have said so far, in every aspect of minimally invasive surgery has come true so far. Now we want to make this available the same way that Dr. Paul and his wonderful family are dedicated to educate and make it equalized for everybody. We want to make everybody in the world to be able to have minimally invasive surgery. And that is the goal. How? Why do you want to do it? 5 billion reasons to do it. Because the population of the world is 8 billion people. 65% of the whole population in the world, they don't have access to surgery. There is a need for 143 million more surgeries needed annually. I want you to please pay attention from this part, because I am giving to some degree, I'm not going to give you the whole roadmap, because even if I want to honestly give it to you, it is in my head. I cannot. But some of you at least give you ideas how I am working on it. And you can do it here. You have the university, you have the people, you have the mind. So there is 19 million annual deaths can be prevented by minimally invasive surgery. Those of you who are able to do it here, and I see some of you are very established here and sitting among us, yes, you are doing it, but only a privileged group are able to reach you. We want it for everyone. The same way that everybody can have a cell phone, minimally invasive surgery could be done equally democratized for everybody. Remember, low-skilled surgeons have 3 times the rate of complication than surgeons that they have the highest skill. Inexperienced surgeons have 2.5 times the operative time and 6 times the readmission rate for experienced surgeons. Remember that? And right now, if you give 500 milligrams of doxycycline all around the world, is the same rate. But surgery is not. You might do 2 cholecystectomy or 2 hysterectomy or 2 appendectomy, 2 ovarian cysts in the same institution in 2 ORs side by 2 different surgeons, and you might have totally different results, because it's very dependent on the surgeons and environment and the instrument and so on and so forth. How can we make it good? Everybody have the same exactly best case. And this is by digital surgery. And what do I mean digital surgery? Digital surgery is not robotic surgery. Digital surgery is a combination of robotics, data analytics, and machine learning, enhanced instrumentation, enhanced visualization, and you connect them all together. And how? And also, you know that the issue of fusion of the human mind and artificial intelligence, it is happening right now. And I would tell you, a computer is able to compute right now in 1 hour what the computers in the past 90 years they have been able to do. The computing power of the computers that have gone so high that in 1 hour can do in 90 minutes. So the pace is incredible how they change agriculture. From the time of agricultural revolution took 8,000 years that we get to industrial revolution. It took only 120 years from the industrial revolution to develop the light bulb, and it took only 90 years to land on the moon, and it took 22 years to develop the World Wide Web. And look at this here. And it took 9 years to develop the genomics. So remember, now we are at the age of quantum physics, quantum mechanics, and also quantum computers. Quantum computing, and that is why we are going to be exponential growth. Remember, there is a Moore who was the engineer who and the CEO of the Intel, that at that time his law was in every 2 years the power of the silicon chips is going to be double. And now it is Wan's law, the innovator and the CEO of the NVIDIA. He says, no, the doubling of the quantum graphics, quantum computing can double even that much. And that is true. You can see already the power of computing and artificial intelligence is going so high, and this could lead to singularity. Remember the different types of artificial intelligence that is available. And those of you who are, I don't see any of you on the iPhone, or I don't see any of you sleeping. I am very proud of you because I see every one of you pay attention, because that is the moment that I'm going to finish this soon and tell you how you get there. Remember, there are 4 types of artificial intelligence. The first one is, we already know that. It is the reactive machines. The Google, the chess game, remember the first year, the chess, the guy beat Kasparov, defeated the computer. The following year, he lost. And the Google machine by itself has become so advanced without knowing the laws. It has gone so super, it has reached superhuman intelligence in all the games. And this has advanced to other games, Shogi, Go, and Atari. Nobody can beat it anymore. Imagine. Now we are in the next stage. And this is already happening too. That is the past of artificial intelligence. So we are not dreaming. The second one, electric machines. Self-driving cars are a reality. It is safer to let them drive the car. Many of the trucks in the United States, they go all, and nobody knows they are trucks. Why did they choose highways first? Because the only time that they can make a mistake is when they don't know, people who do not follow the rules and the laws. Not all the drivers around the world follow the rules and the laws. That is when the vulnerability of the system is. And we are learning more and more to even avoid that. That is a reality. And the next level that I am talking about, and soon we will receive it, is the metaverse, the theory of mind. That is what I am and my team, we are working. And we would like to let the computer at the time of surgery decide how to do the surgery, how to read the mind of the doctor, how to prevent the complication. And we can do that. We are already working on it. And you can do it here too. Because you have the capability, you have proven that you have the technology in India. And those of you who are interested, I welcome you to contact me, and we evaluate you to see if you are able to be part of the journey with us. And that is what I want to do, to make it good for everybody, as Dr. Paul wanted to help everybody. And the next step of all of that it is at least takes a while to get there, and that is when the computers will reach the level of the intelligence that they are passing human, and they can decide on their own. We just hope and pray to God that nobody teaches bad things to the computer, because if they do, they are capable of making it even far worse. So has anybody tried to do some of the work that I'm saying? Yes. Not to the level that I am thinking, but they tried, but they couldn't be successful. And one of them was IBM, who wanted to do some of the medicine and with them, Dr. Watson, but unfortunately they failed. Why did they fail from getting point A to point B? Because they were engineers only, and they didn't know the road how to get there. The same way that I did not know the road how to get where I am here, and with the grace of God, forever my destiny, I survived, and it took 25, 30 years, and I didn't was not destroyed, because there are many roads that I didn't know. Finally, every time I fell, I got up and found my way. But Dr. Watson, who wanted to do that, to democratize, to make it, they failed after spending millions of dollars because they didn't know where the valleys are, where the fires are. It should be done by somebody like us, like somebody who knows the road and how we can get you to the next stage. Because the future of the surgery, to standardize it and democratize it, is a reality, and it will happen. And as I said before, in 1986 and in 1992, wherever in the body a cavity exists or can be created, minimally invasive surgery is possible and probably preferable. The limiting factors are skill and experience of the surgeon and availability of proper instrumentation. For example, I want you to show even the most serious complications of the surgery, that it is bleeding and it is life-threatening. And in the experienced hands right now, this is from my brother, Dr. Farnejad, who is a GYN oncologist, you can see the injury to the internal iliac vein here by an experienced surgeon could be managed, because unfortunately, sometimes in surgery, no matter what, the complications happen, and it could be managed. You can control the bleeder very well, and patient goes home the same as just like nothing happened. Another injury, you can see here that your battery is running low. Thank you. I'm glad you are here. You want to pull up the battery? So, yeah. So you can see another injury here that you can control it. We want to make sure this is not limited only to certain surgeons. We want every human being to have access to have minimum surgery. Even the most difficult challenges could be done. For example, if you can see from vena cava, you have a significant bleeding from the vena cava right here. You can see this is injury to the vena cava. And when the way I vision, and we are working on it, we want to make sure when a bleeding and a condition like this happen, we train our robots to do that, and without the heart attack for the surgeon. And that is a possibility. So next one. So the future of surgery, the way I see it, and we are working on it, and you will see it in the next 20 to 30 years is going to happen. All the surgeries around the world would be the same. And one area that I didn't have time, and there's a long time that I have to discuss it with you, and I am publishing a paper about this, the energy, the equal gamma MC square, and the new fusion energy that just was recently discovered in the US. These are areas that have not been even explored and taken advantage in medicine. And we have to combine it as the sky is the limit. And that is how I see that. And that is how I see we will democratize, we will standardize surgery, and many people, everybody around the world would benefit from it. So forward we go, and I will be happy to answer any questions you have.
Really mesmerizing talks are so good. So really, thank you very much.
Any question?
And if you want to say,
I would be available later if you have anybody question.
please.
I would just like to ask that, do you also see that because of all this potential advancements and the advancements that you have talked about, and it really captures the imagination. What's wonderful is to see that the path is already available, but how do you see it transforming medical education? Because obviously new techniques, new thought processes, and open mind skills.
Thank you. That is an excellent question. What we have now is at the time, as I showed you the first slide of Ibrahim McDowell, nobody could see anything. Right now, the technology has made it so easy that the technology would change the world. And because you can see things and you can learn everything by technology, and the technology is advancing so much that this would revolutionize the education. That is why we see a lot of progress in countries coming from, for example, not only privileged countries, not any bright mind could find the way, as your father did it, and he changed the world for himself, his family, and his whole country, and he didn't even have any of this. But right now, imagine the technology is at the tip of your finger. Any of the students, all they need, Google search it and dream about it and continue and follow their dream. And if you can dream of something, it would happen.
So, sir, how to improve training in the country like in India? Because as you said, no, the complication rate, everything is higher with inexperienced surgeons. So, in endoscopic surgery, robotic surgery, how to improve? Like at a India is a vast country, so I mean, how can we improve? And with which should be like considering finances also, which is cost effective for Indian contingent.
And I have, as I said, this is my fourth trip to India in the past 27 years. And I was lucky that was introduced to your country by Dr. Syed. And I am happy, Dr. Sharma, that you asked me again. It has been more beneficial for me and hopefully some benefit for you. India is a different country and you don't see it because you are in it. You live in it all the time. But somebody like me sees the change. You have some of the best surgeons of the world here, and you have the technology and some of the bright minds. So for you, the path is again the education, and mass production always makes things simpler, more available. And if anybody can do it, I think in your country, you will be able to.
Thank you.
So excellent talk. In the last few days, there's a video going around saying artificial wombs, and children will be actually born from artificial wombs. Almost 50% of women will not be delivering babies after in the next 30 years or so. And you can have your baby in a plastic womb, go hello, hi, and feed or whatever. That's the future which is coming. So is that really coming? And is there a God? And can we replicate souls? So the human beings are no. See, with one skin, when I go to Dr. Nizat and I take one skin cell, I can make another Dr. Nizat. So that's what is happening. And do we want that? Do we want 10 Dr. Karam Nezats to be alive and to train us? So it's some very giddy turns which are happening. And probably God there is laughing and saying, these human beings are searching too soon and acting too soon. And probably how will they duplicate the soul inside us? And of course, what about human reproduction, emotions, love making, all those things? They'll all vanish. There'll be no men required. You can make human beings of a single cell from a woman. Things are, I mean, fortunately, we'll not be alive to see that, or unfortunately.
Well, you know, the way I feel, I believe that we are part of a bigger, and we are all players. And I think in life, no matter what, progress and change is part of life. In an ocean, a wave is a wave. If you want to stop the wave, there is no wave. There's nothing. The nature of being of a wave is just being a wave. Human beings, this is their nature. And human being could be elevated as good as a god of goodness, or could be demoted to be the worst. So, but the good part of life is the majority of the people go towards goodness, and perhaps a small percentage. And the change is going to happen. The naysayers, and yes, finally they would come to some agreement. And we cannot stop the technology. We can look at a good part of it, and if it's supposed to survive, and it is all the good things that are supposed to be good, they will survive. Ultimately, I don't believe the bad survive. I am a very optimist by nature, and I believe anything that happens in this universe is based on plan, and the plan of the survival of the spirit and the energy, as Shushma mentioned earlier, that energy exists. It doesn't disappear if you are alive or if you are dead. The cells, the energy of the Einstein is still here. you don't see, but that energy does exist. So the transfer of the energy, somehow, I hope it is ultimately this universe is built to be a universe. And universe is expanding the physics. So I am very optimistic that things would work out for the best way.
With that optimistic note, we'd like to thank Dr. Najat for a very stimulating oration lecture. It was indeed a very enriching experience for all of us gathered here. I would now request Madam Sushma Paul Barlia to present a shawl and a memento and a book, Reflection in Time, to Dr. Kamran as a token of our appreciation. There's a memento, a book, Reflections in Time, a book which is a compilation of Dr. Satya Paul's most cherished quotes, and of course a shawl. Thank you so much, sir. Thank you. Thank you, ma'am. I would now like to introduce briefly Mr. Aditya Barlia to all of you, grandson of Dr. Satya Paul and son of Mrs. Sushma Paul Barlia and Mr. Vijay Barlia. He is a co-promoter of APG Satya and Swaran Group. He is a young entrepreneur who balances his role in the corporate world with his philanthropic dedication to education. A graduate of Stanford University and an MBA from Harvard Business School, he has to his credit several innovative industrial educational initiatives, including key operational roles in strategic projects of the APJ Satya Group. He's been bestowed with numerous awards and accolades, including the Educlusion Award in Singapore for including Best Global Practices in Higher Technical Education of ASU by Engineering Watch, Asia 1 40 Most Influential Indians Under 40 Award at Celebrating 70 Pride of Nations Series, Educationist Thought Leader of the Year Award at the ELETS Summit, Visionary Leadership Award, and providing Education for Social Cause at World Education Summit, and Visionary Leader of the Year Award by the Center for Education, Growth and Research. He's also been bestowed with the Dainik Jagran Inext Iconic Award for his remarkable achievements and magnificent contribution towards the upliftment of society and nation building at large. He received the Education Visionary of the Year 2020 Award by ASSOCHAM, the znews.com, India.com, Editor's Choice Award for Educationist of the Year 2021, and Young Global Entrepreneur of the Year Award in South Asia by Federation of World Academics in 2021. He also got the Leading Educationist of the Year 2022 Award at Asia African Leadership Forum by Asian African Chamber of Commerce and Industry in 2022. It's my pleasure to request him to propose vote of thanks.
Thank you so much for that extended introduction. I am acutely aware that I stand between all of you and lunch, so I will keep my remarks as short as possible. But you know, for us as a family, as a group, as all of you here, everything begins and ends with a simple notion: gratitude. And so I am always excited when I am asked to give the vote of thanks, because that allows me to really express our humble gratitude to all of you for being here with us today. Our honorable chief guest, Dr. Kamran Nezat, you have heard from him a little bit of his life journey. I highly encourage you to go Google him. He has showed some of his struggles to really establish this field. I think there are a lot he left out due to the paucity of time, but he is truly an inspiration of somebody who doggedly pushed and pushed and pushed to get this wonderful, wonderful surgical technique established in the world. I think a lesser person would have been discouraged. They might have not actually pushed, and all of us here would have been at a greater loss. So, sir, thank you so much for all your hard work, a lifetime of achievement, and for coming up here today. I, on behalf, of course, of the APJ Satya Swaran Group, the IOG Journal, and the Walter Bushnell Healthcare Foundation, was very glad to see all of you here. It's been a couple of years, and to see so many familiar faces and new faces really bringing us together, I think that is a testament to each and every one of you and your kind support, and truly a love for clinical academic learning and practice. So if I could get a great hand for everybody in this audience for making it. Thank you so much for being here. I know it's a very busy month in the year, and we're always wonderful to see you. I would also like to thank and acknowledge the extraordinary and tireless efforts of Dr. J.B. Sharma, who has led this journal since its inception, and of course the members of our most eminent IOG editorial board and IOG journal team for making this one of the most renowned and successful journals in its specialty in India. And I am further and lastly fully grateful to all the team members of the APJ Satya family for their incredible support, coordination, and being there for all of us. That really makes an event like this possible, and especially our wonderful students who hopefully you've all had a chance to interact with and meet, for making this occasion very special. Thank you, everybody. And please, I think we can all run.
Thank you, sir. And now to conclude, may I request everyone to kindly rise for the national anthem.
भारत भाग्य विधाता, पंजाब सिंध गुजरात मराठा द्राविड़ उत्कल गंगा, विंध्य हिमाचल यमुना गंगा, उच्छल जल तरंगा। तब शुभ नामे जागे, तब शुभ आशीष मांगे, गाहे तब जय गाथा। जय जय मंगलदायक जय हे भारत भाग्य विधाता। जय हे जय हे जय हे जय 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 हे।
Thank you all once again, and you're all invited for lunch now. Thank you.